Welcome back to my channel. With the release of Netflix's The Babysitter, Killer Queen, today we're going to be talking about the first movie also on Netflix, The Babysitter. Before we begin, let me know your thoughts on The Babysitter, or if you haven't seen it yet, if you're looking forward to it. Also, make sure to give this a thumbs up if you like these reviews, it helps me out immensely if you do that. Also, if you're new here and you like movies, whether it be blockbusters, hidden gems, or everything in between, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with my review of the second movie and plenty more new releases. But now, let's jump right into it. This horror comedy stars Judah Lewis as Cole, a 12-year-old who's constantly bullied both at school and by one of his neighbors. But he finds protection with his babysitter B, played by Samara Weaving, who always stands up for him. Cole and B get closer, especially during one night where his parents are away and she watches over him. However, he soon discovers that there's much more to her when she invites some of her friends over and they turn out to be part of a murderous cult. This was one of the biggest surprises for me. It was released in 2017, and I remember watching it and having no expectations whatsoever going into it. It was directed by McG, the same director who gave us the Charlie's Angels movies, Terminator Salvation, among many others. And I also wasn't familiar with most of the cast at the time. But this caught me off guard. This movie is absolutely hilarious, and I found it just as enjoyable when I watched it again in preparation for the new film. It's not exactly the most original movie out there, but it knows what it is and knows exactly how to have fun with its premise. This doesn't take itself seriously by any means and isn't expecting you to either. It starts pretty much from this heightened sense to begin with. The first few scenes show Cole getting obnoxiously made fun of, his bully mercilessly insults him, and even the nurse gives him a hard time at school over him taking a shot. So when things are normal, they all start off with a pretty high energy. The way situations are handled, characters get in each other's faces, or they'll scream at one another, insult each other, or whatever it may be. And as the movie goes on, it cranks things all the way up to 11 and gets even wilder. And it'll be pretty self-referential about it too. It'll be right there with you, telling you it knows it's ridiculous. For example, as the movie dives into this stuff with the cult and Cole reacts to something, there will be giant text appearing on screen expressing his reaction in the most exaggerated way possible. In a way, Cole acts as the audience as well as being a character in his own right. The movie is essentially a cross between Home Alone, which is actually referenced here, and Rosemary's Baby. A lot of the movie is Cole going up against these cult members and killing them one by one, usually in what ends up being the grisliest way possible. And he'll end up being really surprised about it as well. He's not like Kevin McAllister from Home Alone, where he calculates everything in advance. He thinks on the fly, and he'll usually be saved by coincidence or things work much better than he expected. If you're into comically bloody violence or splatter humor, this is going to be right up your alley. Almost every scene of violence is done in the most over-the-top way possible. And what makes it even funnier is the personalities of all these characters. They aren't exactly very deep or complex, to be clear. The only ones who I'd say have any sort of depth are Cole and B, mainly due to getting a number of scenes at the beginning where they're bonding and getting along, and we learn a little bit about them. And on top of two great performances from both Judah Lewis and Samara Weaving, it gives us enough to be invested. The only other character with any sort of depth is Cole's friend Melanie, played by Emily Allen Lind, who he's also regularly talking to before events kick into high gear, and he's texting her as the movie goes on. Everyone else is kind of shallow to a degree, but in a way, it's kind of the point, and it's what makes them so much fun to watch. The cult members are essentially the Breakfast Club, except if they were part of a murderous cult. Like, everyone's kind of a character trope. There's a jock played by Robbie Amell, and a ditzy cheerleader played by Bella Thorne, for example. And the funniest parts about all of them is that they're having pretty normal conversations in between any moment whenever they're attempting to kill someone or when they actually do kill someone. These conversations are just hilarious. They'll get into petty arguments or go on tangents about the most mundane things. And this could have easily not worked, especially if the movie took itself even remotely more seriously than it did. But every single member of the cast is just so talented and knows exactly what kind of tone to go for that it just makes their conversations hilarious. They give these characters very distinct and very funny personalities to make up for the lack of depth they have. Even their interactions with Cole as they're trying to kill him had me laughing out loud. Like, they tie Cole up early on and Robbie Amell's character suddenly doesn't have a shirt, and the first thing Cole asks is, "How come he's shirtless?" And everyone else is like, "That's your first question?" And they get into this quick discussion about him not having a shirt. It's little things like that. It's not even a full 90 minutes, and it moves by pretty quickly, and it really doesn't waste much of its time, even tying in seemingly throwaway conversations from early on into something that happens later. And it won't feel forced in a way, and I was pretty impressed by that, actually. Now, I mean, not every joke's going to work. A few of them feel like they belong in a dated R-rated teen comedy from the early to mid-2000s and felt kind of stale, and there are one or two tangents they may go on that don't work all that well. Like, one of the cult members catches up to Cole, and then they get egged by one of the kids who bullied Cole at the beginning of the movie, and he isn't aware of what's going on. So the cult member just stops everything and tells Cole to go stand up to this bully. And that scene in particular didn't work so well for me. Like, I know this is a movie that doesn't want you to take it seriously and you're supposed to suspend your disbelief a bit, but that's the main occurrence where it's asking you to suspend it just a bit too much. But other than that, it's hilarious, and honestly, it's a really good time. This is a lot better than you think it would be. It's not a deep movie, nor a complex movie, and it's not particularly original, but that's perfectly okay. It's a movie that just wants you to sit back, relax, and have a few good laughs. It's bloody and full of over-the-top violence, and while the characters don't have a whole lot of depth, it's made up for by an extremely talented cast, especially Samara Weaving and Judah Lewis, who give everyone such distinct personalities that you always enjoy watching them. It knows what it is, and if you're a horror fan, or if you're in the mood for a ridiculous comedy, I highly recommend this one. The Babysitter gets an 8.5 out of 10. Honestly, this is one of the better movies out there on Netflix. I know it's not exactly the most beloved of all their movies, so in a way, maybe you can call it a guilty pleasure, but either way, it holds up well. Stay tuned for my review of the second movie and much more coming soon. So let me know, did you see The Babysitter, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you find it funny? Did you like the over-the-top violence? And what's your favorite horror comedy? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll catch you next time.